Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. I thought I'd pop by with another off-the-cuff demonstration, and I thought we'd work with some of the ephemera and show how the ephemera can work with the stamps as well. So I thought we'd use the ephemera #30 and #29, and these are available on the one-day special on Monday the 6th of November at 6 p.m. and Tuesday the 7th of November, all on Create and Craft TV. So I thought we'd use them. So what I'm going to do first is just add a little bit of colour, excuse me, to my background. And what I've got is I've got Bodacious and Heather. And I only use that because I liked the name, Bodacious and Heather. And I thought we'd use these two because they're nice colours. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Bodacious. And I'm just going to add a little bit of paint, which I've put right in the way of where I want to braille. So these are Dina Wakley paints, and what I find is if I braille the paint out, I don't get any clumps of paint. So if I braille that out nicely, I don't get any clumps, and I can keep brailing over just to keep adding the paint. And I would rather add little bits at a time and braille it out than go in with one big clump, because if I go with light layers gently, it means that I'm layering that paint and I can stop whenever I'm ready. If I add too much too soon, there's nowhere to go. So I'm brailing it out so that I don't end up with any clumps. So I'm just going to now pick up the rest of that paint that's just on the non-stick craft sheet and just braille that on. And I'm sort of using a light sort of flicking motion. I sort of lift the braille a little bit as I come off the card. So that is our purple colour, Bodacious. And then I'm going to use Heather. So let's use that Heather colour. We'll just add a little bit of the Heather on top. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Heather, and the Heather is a very sort of light colour, and you don't need much. It just adds a little bit of lightness to the design. Nice simple background, so nothing complicated at all. Really, we need that to dry a little bit. There's no point trying to stamp on that. So what I've done is I've just put my finger straight in the paint. That's what I've done. Let's just braille that out again. Try again. Right, there we go. So what I've done is I took these black and white butterflies, the achromatic acrobats, and there's lots of black and white. There's 63 pieces of butterflies, all different sizes, and I like the fact they're all different sizes, because if you just want a little tiny butterfly, then you can just add a little tiny one. It works really nicely. What I did was I sort of laid them out onto my craft sheet, and I came up with a composition. So I knew my card is 4 by 6 inches. Well, let's hope I've put the right piece of card up this time. So it's a piece of Pink Frog smooth card that's 4 inches by 6 inches. And I sort of laid out my butterflies to the sort of composition I wanted, and I just stuck them on the edges of the butterflies before I stuck them on the card. I didn't want to try and lay them out. Once I'd got the composition, I was quite happy with it. And then I knew I'd got to move them. So what I did was I just carefully lifted the wings and then adhered those down, so that I've ended up with this sort of composition here. So they will sort of be left there. So let's leave those on one side. And what I thought we'd do is we'd combine that with the dianthus. Now it'd work lovely with the nemesia as well, so I thought we'd combine it with the dianthus. So we'll just stamp that out just so we can have a look at the dianthus, which stamps beautifully. So we'll just ink the dianthus up and just take our time using the black Nocturne. Well, no, it's Nocturne, that is black ink. So I'm using the VersaFine Clair because that picks up the detail beautifully. It's got a good open time, which means it stays wetter longer. This doesn't need much pressing at all, and it's a beautiful stamp, and it picks up that detail beautifully. It works really well. I just love that stamp. And what I've done is I've actually cut, which I can't pick up, I've actually cut 2 of the dianthus out. And then what I've done is I've gone to my Inktense pencils to make sure they're all Inktense, because I've got that many pencils out at the moment. And what I've got is I've got red violet, dusky purple, which is the darker colour, and thistle. So these are the 3 colours I've got. And to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you, no colour swatches. I literally went by the look. That was as professional as it got. Now the dusky purple is 0730. The thistle is 0720. And the red violet is the worst number ever because I can't read it. So let's just see if I can read that. Get a bit closer. Right. That is 0600. 0610. Good grief, that was hard to read. So that is the red violet. And this is the sort of order I'm going to do them in. Light, medium, dark. And it's up to you whether you go light to dark or dark to light. Entirely up to you. So first of all, we'll get our water brush and we'll just make sure that that is clean. And I keep putting my products away, which I only then have to pull out again. So let's just take those. Yes, that's nice and clean. So I'm going to start with my darkest colour, which for me is the dusky purple. So I'm just going to add some of that dusky purple just in a circular motion. Now you can see nothing professional about that. Nice circular motion. And if I hold my finger up here, it prevents me from putting down too much pressure. So I don't want to break down the card too quickly, even with something that's just reactive with water rather than blending pencil to pencil. So that's the darkest colour, which I'll keep in the same order. And then I'm going to go to the medium colour, which is thistle. And this is what I love about the Inktense pencils. They are so easy to use. And I'm using a circular motion because in this case, it means that I won't leave any harsh lines. So I'm now applying the thistle. And then I'm going to apply the red violet just at the end. Just like that. Just a circular motion. And I'll show you how scribbly it is by lifting it up. Now look how professional that is. Not. That's it. That doesn't look professional at all. But what is wonderful about the Inktense pencils, now let's always grab a piece of clean kitchen roll. It only has to be a tiny bit. You don't need loads of it. But Tracy always uses gallons anyway. Always have a piece of kitchen roll when you're using your Inktense pencils. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my non-stick craft sheet. And then I'm going to pick up that water, which you can see on the right-hand side here. And then I'm going to use the kitchen roll and I'm going to take off the excess water off onto the kitchen roll. I'm then going to go in to the colour. And what I love about the Inktense pencils, if like me, you're not a colourist, they just work simply, beautifully. You look better than I actually am, and it just works beautifully. So I'm going to take a little bit of water again, take off the excess water so that the brush isn't soaking wet. I find personally, if you soak the pencil with your brush with water, it sort of floods everything and you've got nowhere to go. You can't sort of take your time to sort of blend that colour because it's just flooded with water. So I don't use a brush that's soaked with water. We all work in different ways. Now, if you like a very subtle look. That's quite nice. Got a little bit of depth, a little bit of light and dark, not too bad at all. I don't like to leave it like that. I like to add a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is something that is not recommended. So I'm going to use the Thistle, which is the lightest colour. I'm going to take my brush and dip it in some water and take off most of the water excess. I'm then going to take my brush, it's not a water brush, there's no water in this, and I'm just going to dip the edge of the water brush just onto the pencil and pick up that pigment. Now, don't go into those pencils, ever go into those pencils with a flooded water brush, because you're going to ruin your pencils. So what I'm doing is I'm just using that little bit of water that's left on the brush just to add a little bit more depth. And if you look at that one compared to that one, this is quite pale. If that's what you want, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to add any more water. I'm going to pick up that pigment from the lightest colour and I'm going to give some more depth just to that flower. And I'm going to blend it out just with an almost dry brush, just so that it blends out nice and smoothly with no lines. So I've not flooded that. What I'm going to do then is go to the very darkest colour. Excuse me. I've done that many videos and talking. My throat's a bit tickly. I'm going to go to the dusky purple. So I've dipped it into water, take off the excess water, I'm then going to pick up some of that colour. Never, ever, ever drown this with water, because it'll go up into your pencil and ruin your pencil. So I'm going to go with the dark pigment and I'm going to add some of that dark just in this area here. And I should have enough to do both of those just at the edges there with the dark. Right, I'm going to take off all that excess colour. There should be a little bit of water there. So I've taken off the excess colour, take off the extra moisture, and then just blend the edges of that out so it looks a little bit more blended. So just blend out the dark, just so that you've got no harsh edges. Let's lift that up. Just so that you've got some darkness. What you haven't done is you haven't flooded your card, as you can see through the back. If you flood the card, you've just got nowhere to go, because you've just break down, you soak the card and it just doesn't work. So I've got a nice blend on there. And what I would always recommend you do is allow that to rest. Allow it to rest, and then you can go back in with another layer of colour if you wish, and it works quite nicely. You can keep layering as long as you don't soak that card. And what I can see is that the colour I've used on here works beautifully with this. Now, if I hadn't got the butterflies, this one's smaller than I've cut one of the, pick it up Tracy, one of the flowers, I've cut the stem slightly shorter. But if I put them on the, crikey, if I put them on the card now, they just blend into the background, and I don't want that. And that's why I'm using the butterflies, to show how they can also help with the composition too. So let me just grab some text. So we're going to grab this little stamp here, which I've tidied away for the 55th time. And what I'm going to do, I can't pick up an acrylic block, I'm incapable. I'm going to use this little stamp here. I think I've already, do you know, there is already loads of black ink just on this. It's because I get so engrossed and my fingers. Right, so let's leave the acetate in here. So I'm going to take this stamp set and this little text here. There's nowhere to put it. And I'm going to use my little A7 acrylic block. And what I'm trying to show you is how your ephemera can also work with your stamps, and you can create a lovely composition. So, yes, Tracy, what are you going to do? Do I do the stenciling first? Let's first, this is what I do all the time. So I'm then going to use Twisting and Turning Stencil 157. And I haven't got the colour out yet. So just decide which way you want to use the stencil. So let's leave that on there. And then I think I'm going to use Wilted Violet. So I'm going to use a little bit of Wilted Violet. And I think because I want something a little bit, look at that, for the size of a brush, whopping that is. So I think I'm just going to use my brush because I'll be able to layer that colour a little bit lighter, a little bit more gently because it's with the brush. And it looks like you're doing absolutely nothing because I'm using tone on tone colours, colours of the same tone, the same palette. There we go. Let's just, there we go. And what I should have done is got the other colour out at the same time, but I'll hold the stencil in place. Now, you can use a piece of low-tack tape, no problem at all. What I'm doing then is using a little bit of Villainous Potion. So let's look a little bit of Villainous Potion. Now, if purple isn't your cup of tea, don't worry, do it in blues, or if you like your colours in pinks, or you like it in lots of different colours, that's entirely up to you. And I'm using a very light touch. Now let's lift this stencil. I'll hold my hands in place, lift this stencil, and you can see that I've got a beautiful, I've also got some ink on there that I can use, so we'll just leave that on there for the moment. So let's just take these all out of the way so that not working in the background we can't. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to, so you can see that stencil and it works rather nicely. Doesn't it work lovely? So then I'm going to use my permanent ink, which is the VersaFine Clair. And I'm going to use the black ink, mainly because I've got the black from those butterflies. So what I'm doing is, to make it cohesive, drawing some of that black into the background. So I'm going to add some of that black stamping into the background. And don't be too regimented because I don't know where the butterflies are going to sit perfectly. So I'm just going to just keep going with a little bit of the black. Now, sometimes with this stamp, I use a second generation. On this, I want that nice pop of black. And I don't have to worry about what it says because it is about the garden and about flowers. So it's nothing to worry about. So let's just come back here. And I can always chuck my stamp on the non-stick craft sheet and then flick my water brush. Yes, let's just do that. So I'm going to take that stamp again. Now, what you need to remember is just to press lightly. Don't squish the stamp. You can add some of your second generation stamping now. Second, third and fourth and fifth generation stamping just to create your background. I'll just lift that up just so that you can see. Let's just place this here. Just so you can see. Can you see the shine on that? Let me just grab my heat tool. Let me just plug my heat tool in. Now you can blot the excess ink. Where am I going to put that? No idea. Try not to knock the camera, Tracy. So I've brayed some paint onto the background. Now, because you've brayed some paint onto the background, it's like a plastic barrier. And so what happens is, that oil-based ink pad, the VersaFine Clair, can you see it's shining? It's glossy. It's just sitting on the top of there. And if I just blot it, if I blot it, it'll mean that I can hold the heat tool for a less amount of time onto the card to dry it. But if you blot it, let me just show you. Look how much ink comes off there, because it's just sitting on the surface. Now if I lift it again, you can still see, can you see it's shining there? It's just shining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add some water to my hand, and I'm going to flick the background. That oxide is just sitting on the surface, so I'm just going to activate some of it. Again, just to add to that background. You know, you don't have to just use ephemera just to stick a butterfly on one place. They can be an integral part of your project. So what I'm going to do is let's lift this up. I've flicked water everywhere, like you do when you do these things. Let's just lift that up. Now, it turns a paint background into something a little bit more interesting. But what I'm doing is that's reacting with that. And now if I dab the card, like so, you lift some of that colour and you'll get some little bleached out areas. The longer you leave that, the more bleached out areas you will get. So now I don't have to dry as long as I normally would because I've blotted. Also, that oxide is not now just sitting on the surface. It's activated with the water. So just give that a little dry and then dry the reverse. And you want to dry the reverse because there's actually moisture on your non-stick craft sheet. There's actually, there's a puddle of moisture there, and that's from underneath your card. So always remember just to give it a dry on the reverse as well. And then what you need to do is lift your card up and just see if it's gone down to being flat. And it is pretty flat apart from the odd little bit, which I won't worry about, but it's now matte, so we've not got that gloss that's going to pick up. And if you're not sure, use a clean piece of copy paper and just blot that again. Just to make sure, just get into a good practice and then you don't have any errors. So I'm going to add my butterflies here, and they work beautifully with the background. And because you've got that black text in the background, it works nicely as if they all work together. So now I'm going to take my pin flare. I did make sure I pulled another pin flare out because we're nearing the end of my pin flare, but we won't just sort of, we'll make sure that we actually do use all of that pin flare. So let's just add some of the pin flare, and now I can see where I can add little blobs of that pin flare just onto my ephemera, just here and there, just to give that a little bit of lift. And because I adhered it first, that's good, Tracy, you've just added adhesive just so you can see there. We don't want to see adhesive. Don't like that at all. So because I adhered them all together before I went onto the card, I know that I've got my composition there ready. So let's just add that, and I can give these a little bit of height. So let's give those a little bit of height, but I haven't got that pen, have I? So let's give that a little bit of height. So I've just added some pin flare in little areas. So I'm then going to take my little floral, and we'll take some black cotton to add some texture to our design. So I'm going to add some black cotton there and unravel some of that black cotton, and I sort of pull it out in long lengths because it's far easier to work with then. So I've got that black cotton on there that just diffuses everything. Now I want to add a little bit more detail to my floral. Let's make sure that's just working. Just test your gel pen or get it working. Sometimes if you've picked up a little bit of debris, just when you've been doing any mixed media projects, it just affects your gel pen. And let's just add a few little dots just to lift the floral a little bit. Let's reiterate some of the white going down the stem, just to lift that a little bit. So we can shape those. That's the smaller one, and we can shape this one. So I'm going to add, I asked for trouble because I've got the cotton on there, and then it makes it a little bit harder to adhere, because this adhesive has then got the cotton fibres that just stop it from adhering quite as easily. But if you faff like me, you're all right. So I'm then going to take the floral, let's move it down a bit more, that's it. So I'm just going to press it down a little bit and just make sure it catches just on this bit here. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive just going down here. I must have an airlock in that. And then we'll just add a bit of pin flare. And let's just sort of, there we go. Just add that just there. I can trim. If you find that you've got too much, a little bit overhanging, when it's dry, you can trim it, no problem at all. Ask me if I'm going to wait for it to dry. Of course I'm not. Should know that by now. So I'm just going to trim that. And then just press that down again, just so that that definitely adheres to there. And I'm going to add some white splatters, and what we'll do is we'll just give that pen a little bit of a shake, and just give that a few splatters, and pump the pen. If you find you're having problems adding the splatters, then pump the pen a little bit. That way it'll just work a little bit easier. Just add these to here, bring this down, and then let's grab, you've got these coloured butterflies. So I've got the coloured ones, 29, and inside there I've coloured some of them for you, and there's a lovely one that matches, coordinates beautifully. And what you can do is, I've added some white highlights. You can go in and just add a little more highlight with your white pen. Just go add a few more white highlights just to give it even more, and sort of flick just to give a little bit more, there we go, contrast. That's it. Then I can just bend this, because I like having dimension. If you don't like having dimension, then don't add it. So let's just, oh, do you know, I can't stop dropping everything everywhere. I'm just going to clear that adhesive a little bit. It does feel like the bottle's getting difficult to squeeze, as if there's an airlock in there. So I'm going to, no, I'll use this now. Add a little bit of that. And then you can just decide where you want to add that. So I'm just going to add that little one over the top of this one. Just add this here. Just make sure it presses down, just like so. And then I'm going to add a few more splatters, just so that there's some on that butterfly. And then I want a word. So let's grab our wording. So I'm going to use the Ephemera 35. So I could use the word unique and add unique. Add it this way. Let me bring this to unique. Let's have a look what else we've got. I've just picked unique up twice. Isn't that typical? Flowers, bird, inspire. Let's have a look. Just play around with your wordings. Inspire. I quite like the inspire one. But look, you've got these. Let me move these out of the way now. And I like it because sometimes, depending what design you're doing, the ephemera can also inspire you. So I'm then going to take this little art ephemera and I'll just add that just on top of the floral, like so. So we'll just add that on the top of there, like that. A little bit of that pin flare, just so that's got a little bit of dimension. And then I'm just going to see if I've got this. Is that it? Now this is it Wink of Stella? It's got glitter in. Let me see if I don't know whether I've activated. Oh, do you know, I've even activated it. So that is going to be impossible to see. When it dries, this has got a touch, it's got glitter and it's got shimmer in it. So when this dries, it's got shimmer in. And I can see it as it's drying, it's getting a little bit shimmery. So what I'm going to do is, let me lift this, it's going to be easy to do this. I'm going to add little sort of touches of shimmer just to my butterfly, and I'm assuming it's going on there. Is that going on there? Or am I not pressing? Oh yes, it is. So let's just add a touch more. It is going on there. I will try and lift that up, which is going to be easier said than done. I'm just going to add a little bit of the shimmer just to the floral. And it is actually on there. I've got butterflies that have got some shimmer and flowers, oh, that have got a little bit of shimmer. It's hard to show it on camera, but they have got a little bit of shimmer. Right, let's grab have I got a silver one? Probably not. I love playing. I love playing. I've got these little vintage pen nibs. I collect little vintage pen nibs. If I see them, I buy them because I do love pen nibs. Now I've got pen nibs on stamp sets as well, if you want to use those. So I'm going to use that pen nib. And I'm trying to show you that ephemera can also look mixed media-ish. Now for me, it just adds a little bit. Let's not add that on there. Now there's a little bit of fiddling. That's all part of it, just so that you can see. You just add that little pen nib. Of course we do. And then I'm going to add a little pen nib just here. So let's add, so hopefully I'll have added enough just to catch that adhesive. And personally, you wouldn't try, what I'm trying to do here is adhere this with a bit of pin flare on my finger that's making my finger stick to that, and then trying to stick the pen nibs. Don't try to do it, please. Wait for everything to dry because it's ridiculous. Right, let's move those out of the way. What a joke. There's no out of the way anywhere. So now I want the pen nibs to look a part of the project. So I'm adding more splatters. Let's move these out of the way. Now, your ephemera is taking quite a powerful part in the card there, and that's what I'm trying to show you. They don't have to just be for adding bits. So if I add that to the black mat, it will work quite nicely. So let's add that to the black mat. Again, it's important you let everything dry because you're making it difficult for yourself. But you know how much I like to make it difficult for myself. So let's just add plenty of adhesive. I've got that many bits of thread and things stuck to me. And when you add it to a black mat, and I've got card, I can't remember what GSM the black card is, but it's Pink Frog. And it just makes it nice and sturdy. It works rather nicely. So now let's add that to a 5x7 card blank. And it always looks so much nicer when it's sort of put together on a card blank. Let's just sort of lift that up. There we go. Just add that there. It's a little bit of, that's nice. Let's have a little bit of fibre of some kind. So there's your sort of first off the cuff demo with your ephemera, and there's some shine in there, some sort of glittery shine, which the recipient, when they receive that, they can see the shimmer. It's really glistening. It's just difficult for you to see the shimmer. The camera's not picking it up, but just so you can see that, that's our first one off the cuff. Right, let's move this out of the way. And then, if you remember, we'd got this bit of ink left on here. So what I'm going to do is hope that the ink I want... Don't be stupid, Tracy. Have I got it out already? No. Let's use Salty Ocean. So we've got purple on there. Those are the colours that we use. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit more of the Wilted Violet. That's what I did with the brush. So I'm just going to take a little bit more of the Wilted Violet. And then let's use that Villainous blah da blah da blah potion. Little bit of Villainous potion. And you can see I'm sort of just touching that on there. Let's place that back, let's place that back, and then I've lost the other colour. And then I'm going to use a bit of Salty Ocean, a little bit of Salty Ocean ink on there. So this is the ink just on here. And I'm going to spritz that with water once, twice, 3 times. So I've spritzed that with water 3 times. And I don't need to... Let's just go around the edges just to remove any colour or moisture from around the edges. And I don't have to worry or stress or rush because it'll stay wet. So I'm just going around just to remove some of that from the edges. What I'm going to do then is I've got another 4x6 inch piece of Pink Frog smooth card, 300 GSM. Which way do you want that, Tracy? So let's place that way. And what I'm going to do is just grab a piece of clean kitchen roll, because I don't want to transfer something onto the card that I don't really want. So let's just... Oh, got an itch. Got a little itch. That just reminds me of the Bond film, if you've ever watched Casino Royale. Sorry, I am very strange. Certain sentences just make me think of certain films. I am very bizarre. Now, what you don't need to do is lift that within 3 seconds. You need to give it a little bit of time just to absorb into there. Just give that time. Just takes a little bit of time. And you could probably get a second generation print from this. You can lift it up just to see if you've got anything. I could definitely get another print from that. Can you see? And what I'll do is that'll be off camera and I can get another print from that, because you've got a lovely, lovely print there. Isn't it lovely? Just works rather nicely. You can let that dry of its own accord, or you can dab it, whichever you prefer. And then what I've got is I've got the dianthus that we had that I just stamped. You can see that shimmer. I wonder if I can pick it up now. It's really shimmering on here, but it's the camera. Oh, there we go. The camera just doesn't pick it up. So that's my Wink of Stella pen. So let's do this. Just colour this. There we go. Just take your time and just cut that out. I will come back in another demo and we'll use the clocks at some point. My voice is actually going now. I've done that many. So let's take this. And this time, let's use the same colours. Let's bring that Wink of Stella pen in. So let's use the dark one, which was dusky purple. So this time, let's use the dusky purple. Look at that professional colouring. Then let's use the mid colour, which is thistle. Look at that professional colouring. And then let's use the red violet. So these are my Inktense pencils again. So now there's moisture in this Wink of Stella pen, I should be able to blend that out with the Wink of Stella. Just to get, oh yes, I can see it shimmering now. Just to give that a little touch of shimmer, and just to give it a little bit more of a surprise for the recipient that's receiving it. Just makes it a little bit more special. Oh yes, it's definitely, and of course you won't be able to see the shimmer, but there is definitely shimmer on there, and it's very sort of shimmery, but very classy shimmery. It's not sort of tacky. Right, so what I'm going to do then, which will be a miracle because I can't find anything. Did we put that stamp back? No, of course we didn't put the stamp back. I'm then going to take the little stamp set, the little text background from 1066. We'll take that and we'll add some of our stamping. There we go. Take that black ink just to coordinate with that black stamping from the flower. And I'm going to add the first generation, second generation. So let's take it again. And let's have the first generation, second generation. Just adding a little bit of that black stamping. I need to get into the habit of putting it back, because you know what will happen, don't you? You know that I'll just make a botch of it. Oops, sorry, I've now moved the camera, which is nice of me. There you go, I'll just wobble the camera. So I'm going to take this floral here and we're going to lift that a little bit. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive just to the stem, like so. And some pin flare, just so that floral's got some dimension. Let's bend that a little bit. Just add this here, just to give that a little bit of dimension. I'm going to take my touch of black card on here. So we will do that with the pin flare. So let's take the pin flare. And I always feel that once you start creating, more ideas definitely flow. Just make sure you've got no adhesive, just on, you know, overhanging. I don't know what size this piece of card is. It was just a scrap that I cut off from another card. It doesn't matter. It's just a little thin strip. It was just cut off a piece of card and I'm just determined to use it. I'm then going to use the butterfly, this little butterfly. Do I want a slightly bigger butterfly as well? I can always tell when I'm enjoying myself. Right, which one have we got? Which one are you? So let's that's it. Let's adhere those. Let's just bend you a little bit and bend you. Let's just, first of all, let's make sure it sticks. Now, with these, you just need to make sure that sticks, because there's no point trying to lift this now because the glue just slides around. So just let that stick for the moment and then you can lift that up afterwards. So that is going to go here. Where's my coloured ones? Where are you? No, I want the black and white one. So I'm going to add that black and white one. And once it's sort of finished, you know, it's definitely stuck on there, just lift it a little bit. There we go, like that. Thank you. Now talking to a butterfly. So let's use a bit of that pin flare. Let's add that here, like so. Just make sure that makes good contact. You want that to make good contact. Just love that. And then let's grab our clocks. Now these clocks will be available on Let Leonie Loose on the Wednesday. There's Janet Klein's Ephemera on there and Bipasha's. So I've got clocks on that one. So let's take a clock. Now how big do I want the clock? Let's just have a look. Let's go for that one. Yeah. So I've got a whole mix of clocks. I don't want things gathering dust, so we like to use them. So I'm going to cut that clock in half-ish. Let's go for perfection. Let's now add the clock that I can't pick up. Take that ephemera. Can't pick this up for love nor money. Come on, glue, don't do this to me. I need you to work. I'm then going to add my clock. push it up a bit. There we go. Then put the other half. Do I want it under there? Or do I want it straight underneath? You see, that's too regimented for me. I can't be doing with that. Let's just add. So now this is where I faff around a little bit. So do I want that? There. Let me look at my composition. Oh, yes. So let's add that there. Like so. Oh, I love a bit of playing around. There we go. I've got so much debris, I don't know where it's all coming from. I've definitely got a sore throat from talking too much as well. So, and then, what word shall we have? What word shall we have? Let's use the ephemera. There you go. So I'm using my number 35 ephemera. And it's lovely to show you how the ephemera works beautifully with all the designs as well. Now don't press that down too much because you don't want to flatten that pen flare. Poor Tracy, can't get her words out. Right, where's my little stamp? Let's get rid of that bit of card. I've just run I've literally run the wheels of my chair over my heat tool wire. I'm good like that. Let's move this out of the way. I can really see the shimmer now on that flower. Right, let's put the ephemera back into my basket and then at least we won't get in a mess. 28, 36, 28, 29, 30, 31, 26, 27. Can you tell I'm putting everything in order? That's better. I put my ephemera in a basket. Then I'm going to take this little stamp set here that I just cannot get enough of. Stamp this in black. Just can't get enough of this stamp. One I'm probably going to drive you absolutely mental with. Let's just add that. Just one of that. And that stamp set is so grubby already. I've used it that many times. Right. I'm now going to cut some little bits of this stamp out, like I did before, because I'm addicted to it. Just cut this out. It's a little bit too much wide there. There we go. You know what the problem is, don't you? Which is what always is the problem. Too much card. There we go. Let's just chuck that on the floor. It's Friday, so let's chuck that on the floor. So I'm recording this on Friday in prep for when the products actually go live over the weekend, just so I can offer lots of inspiration for you, just to show you how you can incorporate, whether you buy a little bit of ephemera, a bit of washi, whatever, just how you can incorporate these into your designs and your previous releases, and how they all work together. Let's just we're just going to cut all the way down there. There we go. So there's one. Let's just create a little one from this one. Love the shape of this one. I've said that before, but I'll say it again. Just cut that one out a little bit shorter. So they curl a little bit and you drop them, but just, that's it, uncurl them. And let's add these now just to our project. And I don't know whether I'm tidying up for the 50th time today. I might just let the mess be. It's far easier when you use less card to cut out. There we go. Cut around. That's it. Just cutting these 3 out. Just leaving that white border makes it a little bit easier. There we go. That's it. So I've got my little pieces now. Shall we remember to add the white gel pen before we put them on the card? Now that's a first, isn't it? Let's just add those. Just add that. That's it. I'll just take my adhesive and we'll just add our little bits. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive just to the stem, not to the florals, just so that I can, that's it, just so that I can press them down. Where's the little bit of adhesive? Hopefully that'll grab. Yes, I can feel that now. A little bit more adhesive on these. So just on the stem, if you leave the florals free, they just work lovely. They work so nice. She says I can't see a thing. No idea what I'm pressing down, but there you go. So let's then take the little one. Let's press that down. That's it. Let's add some white splatters. And just move your card around, just so that you hit different areas. And then make sure that you don't sort of hit your wording so you can't see what it says. My wipe is now covered in adhesive. I'm then going to add this to a black mat. So let's add this to a black mat, like so. The black mat just makes it pop with those clocks. So try not to touch, like I was about to, the actual Posca pen. We don't really want to touch the Posca pen. Just spend a little bit of time just getting that right. Then we'll add it to a 5x7 card blank. Let's add that to a 5x7 card blank. There we go. Add that to our card blank. Just sets it off beautifully and makes it professional. So what I've shown you here is you've used your stencil, your ephemera, your stamp. It just works lovely. Now I'm going to add, now I'm addicted to it. Which one are you going to use, Tracy? So I'm going to use a little pen nib, just to add. These are vintage ones. I've had them from eBay, I've had them from friends, but also Tim Holtz used to do some as well. And I've got a mix of them all. Let me just move that up a bit so that adhesive. There's no point messing with it too much. These just make me happy, these do. I love sifting through my little. And by the looks of it, I need some more silver ones because I've got plenty of gold. Do you like the rattling noise? It's quite good. It makes for a professional. I think this is a Tim Holtz one, this one. This one looks like a Tim Holtz one. So let's add. But you can use my stamps. The stamps have got pen nibs on. Just add that here. Like so. And all I need to do now is make sure that those pen nibs look part of the project. So a little bit of splatter on there. And what I'm going to do now is show you both cards. Let me show you. So my off-the-cuff cards, there's your floral with the butterflies and the braid background, just so you can see that. Just adore that. And then you've got this one, again with our ephemera, our little florals, the clocks, just love it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Let me just lift that up so you can see the little butterflies as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've enjoyed the demos, and I can't wait for your interpretation. I hope it inspires you. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.